The Sonos Beam Gen 2 or the Bose 300 soundbar. Both are compact soundbars for $449, but which is the smarter choice for your money? Let's find out. Hey guys, it's Jonathan from Smart Home Sounds here. I've got another soundbar comparison for you today. I'm going to be looking at the new for 2021 Sonos Beam Gen 2 soundbar and then comparing it with the Bose 300 soundbar released last year in 2020. Now the Beam Gen 1 versus the Bose 300 is actually a very close call, and it was really tough to choose between those two options. However, the release of the Beam Gen 2 this year has made this a very interesting review. So if you're looking for a relatively compact but quality soundbar and you have a budget of around £450, this video should help you decide where is the smart choice to put your money. In this video, I'm going to cover design, connectivity, sound performance for movies and music, and additional features. You should know the drill by now. Drop a comment below what you think of these two soundbars, and we'll try and get back to any questions that you have, and I'll also link everything below for you to check them out. So what do we need to know about these two soundbars? Well, the Bose 300 sits at the lower end of the Bose soundbar lineup, below the Bose 500, 700 and 900. Now we actually reviewed the Bose 900 and compared it with the Sonos Arc in a previous video, so if you've got a bigger budget and you're filling a larger space, you might want to check that out. The Beam Gen 2 is the more compact soundbar from Sonos, with the Arc being its bigger brother, and it's a replacement for the previous award-winning Beam Gen 1 soundbar, as I mentioned earlier. Now at face value, there are some key differences between these two soundbars. Both soundbars have the same number of drivers, so that's 5 drivers consisting of 4 woofers and a tweeter, but the Beam Gen 2 offers 5.0 compared with 3.0 on the Bose 300, so it offers 2 additional psychoacoustic channels. The Beam offers support for Dolby Atmos, whereas the Bose 300 does not, but it does offer Bluetooth, which is a feature not found in the Beam. So now we've got all the key info out of the way, let's delve deeper and see how the two compare in a real-world scenario. Now we always like to kick things off with the design, as it's important that you're happy with how these look in your home. Now, as I mentioned earlier, both are compact soundbar options from Bose and Sonos, and they're actually pretty similar in width. However, the Bose 300 is slimmer in height compared with the Beam, which does make it a bit more discreet when it's sat under your TV. In terms of dimensions, for the Bose you're looking at 69.5 centimeters wide, 5.6 centimeters high, and then 10.3 centimeters deep. While the Beam Gen 2 is 65 centimeters wide, 6.8 centimeters high, and then 10 centimeters deep. What's interesting is that you get a black and white color option on the Sonos, but you only get this black with the Bose. Now, whether that's an issue for you, that's going to come down to personal preference and your room's aesthetics. So taking a closer look, on the Sonos, the grille has been upgraded from the first generation from cloth to this polycarbonate material, which is slightly more harder wearing and it doesn't attract dust as easily. The Bose grille retains this metal finish, and I've got to say, this is probably what Sonos should have done in the first place. I am a little bit disappointed that you don't get the glass finish on the top like you do on the Bose 900, as I've really grown to like that on the 900. Sonos have actually gone for a more curvy shape around the edges, whereas Bose is a bit more angular. Personally, I do think those more square edges make the curved Sonos edges seem a bit easier on the eye, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder at the end of the day, and I'm sure some of you will prefer the styling of the Bose. Now, when you unbox these soundbars, you are provided with all the cables that you need to get started, but I think Bose have been a bit mean not including an HDMI cable, as 90% of customers will be using the soundbar via HDMI. Annoyingly, you actually only get an optical. So you can connect either soundbar to your TV's HDMI ARC or eARC port, or if your TV is a little bit older, you can connect them to the TV's optical, also known as digital audio out. So with the Bose, you actually get an optical port, whereas in the Sonos, you only get the HDMI ARC, but they do give you an HDMI to optical adapter. Both would achieve the same result. However, if you do choose to use the optical on the Bose, that then frees up the HDMI. So if you want to connect a device directly to it, then you can. Bose do encourage customers to use HDMI, which is more reliable than using infrared, which is quite ironic as they don't actually provide that HDMI cable and only the optical. Now you are also provided with a remote control with the Bose, whereas no remote control is in sight with the Sonos. Now this will come down to personal preference again, but for me, I quite like being able to pair my existing remote with the soundbar so you don't have to worry about another remote control, which you can also do with the Bose, but I know some people do appreciate having a physical separate remote. So if we take a look inside of each of these soundbars then, so in the Beam you get 5 speakers which are comprised of 4 full range woofers and a single tweeter for clear dialogue. Now 2 of the woofers are positioned at the edges at a 45-degree angle to produce a wider soundstage than its physical form. The story is largely the same with the Bose, as that too comes with 4 full range woofers and a single tweeter. Again, 2 of the drivers are facing outwards so the sound can be bounced off the side walls. You've also got far field microphones inside both of them, and both of them come with Amazon and Google Assistant voice control, which, as you probably know, that can control a whole host of different things. Of course, you don't have to enable it on either of these soundbars, and you can mute the microphones on both as well for complete privacy. And just so you know, both can also be wall mounted if you're going for that sort of setup. Okay, let's not keep you waiting any longer then. Let's have a listen and see what they sound like. Now, before I give you a demo, it is important to note that something that Sonos has, which Bose lacks on the 300, is some form of room optimization or correction. Now, Sonos offer True Play tuning, and that's where you can acoustically optimize the soundbar for the room that it's in using an iPhone or other iOS device. And as the room size and layout and other objects do have a significant effect on the sound that you hear, to be able to regulate this is a big advantage. Now you can even turn it on and off to see what difference that it's made. The Bose does not have any sort of room correction software on the Bose Music app for the 300. What it does have is what's called real-time tuning, which automatically analyzes what's playing. So whether that's movies, TV, gaming, and then fine-tunes the sound to optimize your listening experience. Now that's all well and good, but we don't know what difference it has made and how that actually works. Now I wish it had the same form of acoustic optimization that you get on the 900 soundbar Adaptic, which involves putting a headset on, and that was great for optimizing the soundbar for the space it's in, but unfortunately that's not included with this model lower down in the range. Okay, so now I'm going to play 2 snippets of movie trailers for you. One will be Dolby Atmos and one won't be, so you can see the differences. So pause the video now, go and grab some headphones or get the video playing out of a decent audio system so the differences can be made out more easily. And as I always say, use these sound comparison tests wisely, as the full nature of the sound won't translate over via YouTube, as well as being here with me in the room.
Here we go again, huh? Here we go again, huh?
The 10 rings gave our family power. If you want them to be yours one day, you have to show me you are strong enough to carry them. The 10 rings gave our family power. If you want them to be yours one day, you have to show me you are strong enough to carry them.
So I hope you found that test useful. Feel free to make up your own mind about that, but from what I hear, there is quite a distinctive difference in the lower end. So I felt that the Beam went lower and it has just more powerful bass overall. If you're playing an action-intense scene in a movie or a track with quite a prominent bass line, you do miss out on that rumble effect that brings you closer to the content. Also, as the Beam supports Atmos and the Bose doesn't, I found that the Atmos trailer sounded far more immersive on the Beam, and I felt like the sound went beyond the parameters of the TV when listening via that soundbar. The Beam is actually able to take advantage of its psychoacoustic processing and fire the sound higher up than the top of the TV and much wider than the TV, even without dedicated upwards or sideways firing drivers. Now, as Atmos is object-based, the level of detail does step up versus Dolby Digital. Now, despite Atmos still taking a back seat to Dolby Digital content at present, Atmos will be the norm, I'd say, in the next few years, so you may want to take this into account when making your decision. Of course, if your TV doesn't support Atmos or you have no intention to upgrade your TV anytime soon, then obviously the differences between the soundbar are then lessened and it might be a harder decision to make. In terms of dialogue, I'd still say the Sonos Beam offers cleaner vocals than the Bose, but that's not to say the Bose does a bad job. In fact, I think the vocals are really impressive, and I think TV shows and films are what the Bose 300 does best. Unfortunately though, vocals is one of the best and most distinctive features of this new generation of the Sonos Beam, and are extremely hard to beat in this price bracket, which is why I would say that the vocals on the Bose are good, but the vocals on the Beam are great. For music, the advantages of the Beam that I've already described does translate across to music as well. So again, vocals and bass are the standout performers here with the Beam, but I was still happy with the performance of the Bose for music, and the Bluetooth option here will be a real bonus for some. So let's also cover your home cinema options as well, because I know a lot of you will be considering adding a subwoofer and or rear speakers to the soundbar for a more immersive cinematic effect. Now it is possible on both options to add both a subwoofer and rear speakers to finish, but the total cost does work out differently. So for the Sonos Beam, Sonos Sub Gen 3 and 2 Sonos One SLs, this would come to 1556 RRP. Whereas for the Bose 300, the base 500 module and 2 Bose surround speakers, this comes to 1247 RRP. And that difference is largely down to the subwoofer being more affordable with the Bose. Now I would love it if Sonos offered something similar in the future, which would help make bundles like these more competitive. Now what is interesting is that with Sonos, the Sub and One SLs can actually be used elsewhere in the home, and they don't need to be paired with the Beam. So for longevity, this is a great to have. On the Bose, the sub and rear speakers can only be used with the Bose 300. So as ecosystems go, this is a big benefit of the Sonos system. So let's move on to features then, starting off with how you can control these soundbars. So both soundbars come with Wi-Fi, Spotify Connect and AirPlay too. So you can pretty much stream anything to both of them. Within the apps, you can also stream radio from TuneIn, which has all the radio stations you could possibly need. One big difference though is that the Bose 300 comes with the addition of Bluetooth 5.0, which means that you don't need to rely on Wi-Fi to operate the soundbar, and that's going to be convenient for people being able to stream quickly and easily to the soundbar. The Sonos Beam does not come with Bluetooth, which we've seen be a deal breaker for some in the past, but it is not really necessary if your soundbar is going to be sat at home all the time. I would say if you have major concerns about the reliability of your Wi-Fi, then this is maybe when I would factor in the inclusion of Bluetooth in your soundbar. But as I find Wi-Fi offers a more reliable connection, no Bluetooth isn't a deal breaker for me personally. Both are set up using their own respective apps, namely the Sonos app and the Bose Music app. Both are relatively straightforward, and we had both of these set up in around 10 minutes or so. Inside the apps themselves, you can save your most listened to content to your favorites, and in fairness, both apps are completely usable, and both apps form an ecosystem, so that if you have multiple Sonos or multiple Bose speakers in and around your home, the music can be grouped together for an all-in-sync party mode, or each room can be playing something entirely different. I do still think that the Sonos app is just that bit more refined, and their experience shows with how it's designed and how intuitive it is to use, but I certainly would still be able to live with the Bose Music app as well. Now, one thing that Bose has over the Sonos is the ability to pair selected Bose wireless headphones to the soundbar using Simple Sync. So in theory, you could be watching the TV with the audio coming through your headphones. So maybe if you don't want to make any noise, this will come in really handy. Because Sonos don't yet have any headphone options at the time of filming this video, it's only possible to listen to the Sonos soundbar out loud. So if Sonos ever did bring out their own headphones, then this level of compatibility is something that I would want to see, and it's something Bose do really well at the moment. So then let's start to wrap up the comparison and give my final thoughts on the Bose Soundbar 300 versus the Sonos Beam Gen 2. So both options are each brand's most compact options at the time of filming this video, so they will be suitable for smaller rooms with TV screens that are maybe around 55 inch and below. Now, when I say smaller rooms, I am talking a lounge, a bedroom, a study, that sort of thing, maybe around 5 by 5 meters, that sort of size. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do think this comparison is slightly easier than the Sonos Arc versus Bose 900, now that the Beam is in its second generation. The Bose 300 was actually named the Beam Beater by some for quite a while when it was in its first generation, and as I said earlier, it was a very close call there. After filming the Bose 900 versus Sonos Arc, I was really looking forward to seeing how the Bose 300 would stand up to the Beam Gen 2. Maybe it is a bit unfair comparing it with a more recent update from Sonos with more recent tech included, so I will be right on it when the Bose 300 gets an upgrade whenever that may be. As both are the same price, you do have to factor in that the Beam offers Atmos and TruePlay as well. I think with the Bose 300 not having Atmos, This alone might be enough to sway a lot of people, the same as the Sonos not having Bluetooth would. It really is down to your personal usage, but Atmos cannot be overlooked as the extra immersion that you get makes the content much more engaging, and it makes the Sonos just that little bit more future-proof in the long term. Now, if I had just listened to the Bose 300 without having heard the Beam before, I would be more than happy with the Bose 300. But because I've listened to the Beam Gen 2, it feels like it's just slightly off the mark. That's why I'd say if the Bose was just a little bit cheaper at maybe $399 or $349 even, I think it would tip the scales a bit. But for me, ultimately, I think the Sonos is a smarter choice on this occasion, and is why the Sonos Beam Gen 2 is still our favorite new audio product of 2021. So I hope that's helped, guys. Remember, links to both products will be in the description below if you want to check them out further. Before you go, if you could drop a like and subscribe if you want to be kept up to date with new home audio products and TVs in the future, and join our community of movie and music lovers, that would be much appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on our next video.